He started to shake. I said, you see the stairs? You walk out of here, don't ever come back again. Don't you understand? I take no responsibility for your life. I try to daven. I'm not usual in your place. I can't just daven. Everyone listens. Is that me? Hey, I can't daven. I start to daven, I cry. Then I go upstairs. I call Chotakov in those days. The Rebbe was always on the line.
Oh.
And I start to cry. Ich bin ein General. Ich darf übergeben, was der Matze ist.
No, this is still the worst part. Okay, now this is still the worst part.
Gewoon over zomaar God ik zijn. Terug terug, zijn minuten hebben het zijn af elkaar. Officially. I go back. So God ik zei, zoals ik je weet, wat wilst du? What do you want? I said, "Mr. Gleich, have Mashiach." Knowing to heaven on the line, right? We believe, right? That's the right time to push the button. Yeah, we do something bring up anders. Yeah. Then I started. Ich bin ein General im Rebbe. Und ich bin mein Mann bei Muno Schleimer. Bin ich meine. Mit Rebbe und alles ein paar Koschosei. Taka zei, zijn met de zwoorden, ik zou nog weten. Wat de Rebbe zegt, Schleimer komt zo voor met de zwoorden, ik verschil hem samen. Ga je nog een. So right away the question comes. See, is vakant. And I've told you from Kalim Lake. I answer right away, yes. What's on a Kalim Lake hospital? What's that Kalim Lake hospital? Jerry Weinkamp. You get the Rebbe saying that. I'll take a full-page ad in the Los Angeles Times. Like Kalim. I went more back and forth and back. Finally, I said, ich habe zwei gesunde Fies. Ich gehe auf die Fies, bis ich gefühlt the Meufers. That's when the beginning of the Weinberg miracle started. I went from place to place. I think Rabbi Hecht was with me when we go some places. I don't remember clearly. So we went to see this multi-millionaires, pomegranate juice, whatever it's called. I don't remember the name anymore. Whatever. So we ring the bell. And they had given us thousands of dollars before. Ring the bell. And the buzzer says, Rabbi Cunin, let me in. This is it. This is my face. This is going to be. You're going to see. This is going to be. Okay. Come in. How do you call it? The butler, whole uniform. Shmatei over his arm. Please, Mademoiselle said, please to come in. This is it. This is the miracle. It's going to happen now. It's going to be. And all of a sudden, a shrew, if you know what that is, a machsefer, 4.5 feet tall, comes in with a gigantic bulldog and says, blank, blank, Get out of my house. So wait a second, I'm Rabbi Cunin. You let me in. Get out of my house. I want to talk to you. Get out of my house. And if not, I say, she says, you see this dog? He's going to bite you. He'll bite me, I'll bite him back. I saw the dog went busy. And we left. We created a morning, we walked into Murray Crane's house. So I had my Lechatchilla Ariber. I told him the story, wrote me a check for $100,000. I said, it's not what it was with Cuckoo. So one day we went knocking on the door. The lady had given us $10,000 the year before. Got a telephone. Ring the bell. The butler comes and says, please wait. She comes out. I was again with somebody I don't remember. I'm very first level. And she said, Rabbi, I saw the telephone. You people are wonderful. But you have to understand, I have nothing. My husband is divorcing me. And if I get out with my clothing, that itself will be a miracle. He's trying to force me, trying to kill me. William Weinberg. Very big Hala Hilton, $100 million at least. I said, be strong with Allah. And she said, if I had your belief, I'd be okay, but I don't. Then we went to Rabbi Cunin's wedding. We brought an invitation to her, tried to get her spirits up. She gave a check, I think, what was it, $250? Oh, I stand corrected. Listen, whatever the case is, I wish I could be like you, but I'm not. And then I'm on the phone, waiting to hear back at the Chanukah menorah in City Hall, the beautiful menorah. It's named after Tzemach's menorah. His picture is next to it in City Hall. You see it there. Nog allemaal lichtelijke geleden. En de eventjes op betten. En zo komen ze geen met de redden kijken of we uit mamisch. En neder, and all the children, so om de keuken zoals hadden. The rest are going for goals. I get a call. So my boy Hecht was my right hand man. Office next man. So I'm gonna push on my car phone, I had a big car phone like this. I get a call. I'm supposed to go for the offer. So I get a call from Zev Yaroslavsky, who was a counselor. He says, Rabbi, the Federation, no comment. Federation is taking you to court not to allow the menorah in City Hall. And the hearing is set for 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. You understand? Hanukkah time, right? Right before Hanukkah, whatever. I said, but I'm supposed to go to my son-in-law's offer in New York. Rabbi, if you don't come, I'm not going to court. You're going to lose. I started to cry. But there's no room to cry because you're in a war now. In the middle of all of this, so we called Rabbi William Kramer, a wonderful reformed rabbi, respected by everybody, to write a letter that the menorah is not a religious object. You can make it out of potatoes, you can do whatever you want. I'm working on all of this, calling this one, calling that one, gotta go to court. So Rabbi Hecht, behind him, walks in, he says, Shver, there's a lawyer on the phone that wants to talk to you about some money. I said, do me a favor. So it's a klappen, it's a cup and van. I have enough of these stories already. I just haven't got the time to talk to them. I'm working on this war. And he says, swear, you believe that was going to help you, right? He says, yes. Well, maybe this is a help. The lawyer picks up the phone. He says, you should know how me Weinberg's life ended. I think she didn't mean to kill herself, but she was found dead in the garage with the engine of the Rolls Royce running. Beautiful dress to the ground. Rabbi side, it turned out everybody said, there's no way you're going to win this. It turned out to be a massive war. A long story, I could stay here all night to tell you the war. The went to Shishur, I was in Russia. We had found this for him. We found this for him. And our wives of those Yamuching had. I got a call from Chotakov. The Rebbe sagt, so slikum, because you have to be in court. So slikum. I said, wie kan ik slikum? Ik ga genomen aan net. Ik ga niet naar huis voor Rusland. Quiet. So reinging in Marina Russia, which we were told not to go near any Chabad institution. Because there's a hot issue then. So Matanera zei ze. I'm coming to farm. Then I came and came to the Rebbe. The Rebbe kept the minyan for Mincha waiting. I remember like today, I was standing by the helmet. The Rebbe went like this. Military salute. Then I got in Mincha with a yontif tikinus. Then I had Yechidus with the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, "Mr. Hopke Matank, I need him." And I had getrokken the last from the Chabad. That was brought ahead. And it was the last $18 million worth of Chabad. Play back and forth. Going to Shishura. Nas Kodel Min Shemayim. I'm not going to tell you how it came about because it's a longer story. But the winter Shishura, that's what happened. $21 million. I forgot to tell you before when I was on the phone, when the Rebbe said, Chodakov said, Fisher, als ik weet, dan was dat een gebedselijke brugge van de zwaar. Maar de eerste brugge van de zwaar. That's Lechatchilla Ariber. There's no sense to this. It makes no sense. We're going to give you the tiniest tonight. They were printed in person some tiniest here, which many of you, if you know Shluchim, you may find your tiniest already printed. But in any cases, there's nothing to say. Lechatchilla Ariber means exactly that. When I was in Russia, Abi Rosenhaus was angesund. Chaim. He's on video. So Abala says to the Rebbe, looks at a piece of crib sheet. I should tell the Rebbe that Rabbi Cunin said, Lechatchilla Ariber. And the Rebbe says, he knows what that is. He knows what that is. So whatever the case is, the Rebbe is with us. With all of our sufferings, the Rebbe is with us. The fight for the Svarim goes on day after day after day. Beis Nissen, they put their papers into the court, maximum the Russians. New York. Beis Iyyar, which is tonight and tomorrow, our papers are going back. Historic papers before calls of appeal. It's new because they only understand one thing. That's money. Russians have one God. It's called money. There's dollars. Where do they hide their dollars in America? We've located where they hide them. We have a court order to attach their assets. The minute the first pinch will come, we'll get a call. Please come get your books. Пожалуйста. Сейчас. Не завтра. Now, not tomorrow. That's going to be. So I'd like to do now. The room is in Lechatchilla Ariber, everybody together. Chaim. Rebbe's no for me, mas b'moreya. So hold my four Shlomo Kroivo, take it from Yad Yanish. Chaim.
Nope. Yours? Zoom meeting. Stop. Yeah, yo. Yeah, yo. Yeah.
So for this evening, we have several other shluchim here that are going to be Farbrengen with us. Growing up in the Cunin household, and our brothers here, growing up in an environment where Lechatchilla Ariber was the normal for us, meaning that's what we observed at home. So when we went out to the world, we didn't realize that it was unusual behavior. And there are so many stories. There's so many stories that we grew up with. And I could tell you so many stories, but the stories when I tell them, I can tell you just little pieces of the stories. And like one story that just comes right now to mind is that when I remember when my father made the first 20-foot Manera, decided to take on the freeway, but didn't take into account the bridges over the freeway. And it turned into a whole balagan. They had to shut down the 10 freeway, and they're going to arrest my father for great volume on the freeway. And then, before cell phones, they already had somehow or another the council member and the cops from the LAPD, not the highway patrol, waiting for him. And once that had, we were able to go to the event, and it's a long story about that. But my brother Mendy, Rabbi Mendy, has a good Baruch Hashem, good care for many of the stories. And My father asked on the Monday to share a few of the Lechatchilla Ariber stories of the past. Like it used to say on the wall of the Long Beach Hebrew Academy, we will have no future unless our past is rightfully present. Stop sign, stop teaching your child the Jewish education. But this is the past is present, and Christian is by Malchus. Now you find Yumanim, you read stories, and you find the oral history that are prevailing, and you hear. But there's nothing like actually hearing the Lechatchilla Ariber, the recording. So this is who's enough, his enough, that guy's enough. So there's the Sikha of Gimel, Nisun, Tashim, and Gimel that Rebbe spoke about my father. And I was 15. I was able to understand the Yiddish. We had this little speakerphone in our house, and we were wearing our Pesach aprons, helping mommy clean up. Which now that we're parents and parents and grandparents, and see what it takes to educate kids for Hashem. But my father was Baruch Hashem making the Chabad houses, and if anything needed to be put in line, mommy would say, "We call Tati." She should know. Very tough man. I saw him disarm someone here in front of Chabad. So I'm here to be child memory. Hardly ever lifted my head up. Okay. The disarming, I'll just tell you that because it's sort of sounds like this. We'll come out upstairs. My father, he would just come stay here, As there are Israelis, he's the armed veterans of the Yom Kippur War. And they give him free housing for arm wrestles on his phone. Of course, he did an arm wrestle. My father calls this guy and said, "Here, you have a gun?" "Yes." "You have a license?" "No." "Bring me the gun." "Oh." Brings me the gun and says, "Bring me the bullets." "Now get out of here. Don't ever come back here again." Wow. That's pretty cool. But my mother would call up and say, "I'll call Tati," and that was all. But sometimes she did. And it's a little kind word from Tati, and everybody back in line. So, but here's this growing up in this house of Kedusha and Torah. I had to say something. Never ever. I'm almost 100 years old. I'm 53 and a half. Never ever saw my parents ever raise their voice to each other, ever. And you say, how do you build 300 sectors? That's how you do it. So what happens is the Rebbe speaks, and going back to the Hanachas and the Chayis, and Yumanim, the Rebbe says there's a Yid that his whole life is Torah Kedusha, and he has a tefach al tefach that he leaves for his private dachin, for his Achilo Sheh. You can listen to it. It's on Chabad.org, on Ashreinu.app. And he borrowed monies that even with miracles cannot be paid back. But because he did that, now he brought monies into the budget of Kedusha that wasn't supposed to be there. Now, everybody has their budget, the family budget, the Meister budget. Everything's with the budget of the world. It wasn't supposed to be in the budget. And go ahead and listen to it, please. And because, so that's one thing. He brought monies that weren't supposed to be there, put it in. And he brought people that their Kedusha, their Torah mission was a tefach. He elevated them to Da'at Amas by Da'at Amas of Torah mitzvahs. So therefore, he will pay all this back. And he'll have even more. Remember this 15-year-old kid, I was just able to start up here and understand. I was going berserk. I was saying that wow, I was talking about Tati. We're all living with his dad. What's going on? This guy's coming in. This guy's coming in. And then you gotta hear this guy's. And then it's just that got the exact words. I talking. We didn't sing, and even as a 15, I was like, they would just made this huge mic because he's saying, why didn't you sing the Tzemach Tzedek song? Zaga Nigan, Yevina Simnei, like, as if it's like it's Zaga Nigan. Like, what? The Rebbe just said you can't be paid back even with miracles, but he will pay it all back. And then I was able to be there, and it was Parshas Vayera, Tashim Mem Zion, it was a shir dollar with her. My father went up to the Rebbe and said, Zozayin B'Shalmi is Nisher. And the Rebbe gave a bracha so loud, the whole 770 heard it. They said, oh, man, the Artu Batayich Tir Ibanoiser. That was another part of the story with the Elisha Hanavi, with the Kelim Rekim Al Hamiti, that was at Haftarah. The mimer actually a very unusual mimer. The Rebbe spoke about the concept of accompanying someone when they leave Leviyah, the midst of accompanying somebody, and you're setting them with your tail of tail, with your shadow of shadow, like very beyond makif of the house, beyond the makif of whatever, very. But I remember going back 6 months before that, you Gimel Tishrei Tashim and Gimel. I was 14, so by that Farbrengen. The personal level was very special Farbrengen for me as well, because the night before, you Gimel Tishrei, you love the Lechatchilla Ariber. And when we had come, there was no, like, the Rebbe ran the Tir Shluchim program. All the kids sat there with the Rebbe, you know? At any rate, the Rebbe spoke about Lechatchilla Ariber. Erev Yotiv, Yudalad, Tishrei. Tells me we're going to go come with them Manhattan. The Rebbe said Lechatchilla Ariber 100 years, let's go. Okay. My father went to places, I'm sure, I don't know where it was, but I'm sure he did. And it was, sure there was well-moneyed people there. And he was stopping them. He never met them before. Asking them to make donations. And they're like looking at it. Because the Rebbe hates that Shane done. And so that was I want to share, it's almost camp now. The Rebbe said every one of us have to recruit kids for camp, and Rabbi Engel and Rabbi Brisky, all the we have great campers, shippers here, every one of you. But I just recently heard a story. I was in Napa Valley when my father bought a campsite honor the 40 years of great tzaddik, Rebbe Yitzchak, Rebbe. And I just heard about this from not too loud for he told me. He was a counselor then. And they saw all these like funny thin like tubes. Valley Morning, Chabad the Valley, Camp Israel in the house. Wow. So many people, every one of you touched. I just have to shush out everybody's name. It'll take you half an hour. I'll be asked to have a seat. So one of you would tell you a story. So every consider stuff I shouted at you. Thank you. So they saw these like thin tubes. And they said, we went to the guy, the maintenance guy, what is this? Oh, there's rattlesnakes that come down there. What? It was infested with rattlesnakes. They come at night. They said, oh, it's drought. 76, it's drought, and they come here because they don't have water up there. Like, what? So they wrote to the Rebbe. I remember as a kid, I was 8 years old. It was pouring rain. It was like the skies were dark during the day. It was poured. And then that Sunday, there was this caravan of produce trucks coming out in cars and vans, bringing produce. The local farmers, they heard that the Jews came and davened Hashem for rain. So for the rest of the summer, they didn't have to buy produce. But what should I tell you? This bitachon that we saw, that when we see of our parents, and a great example. You know, one Friday, the Rebbe called up one of the Mashkiim called up and asked, "Is there real bitachon amongst the group sent to bring this Rebbe's forum back?" So we have to just an academic point. I got to go. Done. Okay. Okay. So about Lechatchilla Ariber. So Yetzivat Tzaddik is the same as speech as Rebbe Manash Lechatchilla Ariber, and the Rebbe speaks about him. It says Yotza Limlech. He went from abject poverty, from being a slave, from being a prisoner, to be the king, just like that. Telling Pare what to do. So you do this, do that. Rebbe says, the Rebbe Marash, Lechatchilla Ariber, even greater, after Matan Torah, after Gilui Chassidus. And tonight's Mazali Gover. So every one of us have this power. We just need to reveal it. We have to uncover it. Every one of us have the Rebbe inside of us, especially after Kayach Nissen. So we have the great examples here in this room. My father and every one of you have Lechatchilla Ariber. But today we absorb it from each other, and we teach each other, we learn from each other. And especially from Rabbi Cunin, that they're about to say, kill Shaynoi. Also, you have to find the audio, but one time David turned around to Rabbi Cunin, and said, Rabbi Cunin is here, Rabbi Cunin is here. You have to do something with Lechatchilla Ariber, go bring dollars. Give me $1 now. Remember, my father had this whole speech to prepare to say to the Rebbe. After one of the sons going to Russia, and he did this whole thing to say. And then he rehearsed it with me. And he comes to that man, and says, Lechatchilla Ariber. And I took him to the airport, he's like, so that was right before the coup. So my father heard about the coup while he was stopped over in Frankfurt. But you know what? My father had the presence of mind as driving back on the side of the freeway to make it in time. Sidewalk also, but this time it was like, I don't know what highway it was, Manhattan, Heights, right before Switches. 19 Tashman Gilmore. I'm 14, I said, what's Lechatchilla Ariber? He's able to distill it for me. He says, you have to have the machshavas, has to be the kedusha, and went like into mashpia mode. So let's take in this Mazali Gever, let's bring the Gilula, let's have the Achdus amongst the Shluchim, Achdus, the Avos Yisrael, and let's reach out to every single Yid. From Mashiach Shefechet Shein Mecha and you shall be blessed. And special brachas from my parents, my mother Shara, and when I read.
Amen.
So many stories. Rabbi Einbinder, please come up and show. We get to have the yearly inspiration for Rabbi Einbinder. Lechatchilla Ariber.
Tonight is very significant because it really embodies and personifies what we all are. Ve'eres D'Teu, B'Kelim D'Tikun is very much an inherent and indigenous California era. Not something that was meant for everyone. As Ronald Reagan would say, there's trickle-down economics. It trickled down to everybody. It's ours, correct? And I used to tell you, B'Kelim D'Tikun, Mendy, there's no one like Mendy, other than the rest of the brothers. He's talking about his tati. So this man to my left was a tati to all of us in different ways, in different gradations, and different levels. I'm going to tell over a story you may not be comfortable with, but it helped shape me. I heard this from Rabbi Gordon of blessed memory. First year I came out here, when Rabbi Chadakov was Megala, that there has to be 2 separate camps. A bunch of Bachim from Morristown came out. It was one of Rabbi Gordon's most difficult summers. We'll put it at that. And I said, Mativa, what is this Lechatchilla Ariber all about? And he says to me, let me share with you a story. Al Derev Zeh, when the Holy Brothers came to the Magid, they say, tell us the nature of Zalmanu. Neshama Chadasha, The Maggid gave over to the Alter Rebbe the everything. He took the Shmetan, if you will, by the Tara, the famous Sikh of Tes Kislev. And the Maggid himself, the Rebbe, the Maggid of Mizrich said, we cannot perceive, measure, or describe the exaltedness of this soul. But when you tell a story or two, we can begin to perceive the true reality and the depth of the core of what type of a soul this is. We can tell stories about him. So Josh tells me way back when we didn't even wear masks. It's hard to remember, guys. And he says there was a van that went to Long Beach. As the kinders on Gain Lubavitch Meisid, but Mesiras Nefesh in those days as well. Traffic was never good in this area of the world. And there was a phone call, and it went to Westwood, Rabbi Cunin's office, that there was an accident. And Baruch Hashem, it wasn't the easiest accident, but it wasn't the worst. And thank God everybody's basically okay except one kid. That kid's got to go to the hospital, maybe stitches, hopefully not a concussion. Rabbi Cunin says, whose kid is it? There were shluchim there, and they were Balchuvas. The driver says, I'm sorry to tell you, Rabbi, it's your kid. What did Rabbi Cunin say? Baruch Hashem. And the man meant it. Now, I don't mean to use this word, but that's craziness of Kedusha. We're all mehabed aveklik for the Rebbe. We all had difficult days in our lives. They don't seem to be getting easier. But das ist madrege, it's nicht gefallen schmeißen. Azaya zayde mitzias. You want to try to understand who Rabbi Cunin is? Rabbi Cunin is a man who they're aveklik, that he's masters. The Begebenkeit is eires to tell actually in Kalim the tale. And that's what brought about the rectification, if you will. I think the Rebbe told you to give him a list of who's not getting paid, and you played Chabad's shtick a little bit. The Rebbe told you to go to Rabbi Chadakov and give the true amount, etc., etc. I think that's where he gave you lessons about getting at least 2 kapatas, 2 half. I don't know. Ich will nicht reinkriegen zu viel in the closet. You know, it reminds me of a guy in Houghton that comes to see me after 25 years. He walked in, I thought I was going to drop dead. He was the worst kid in Chabad of Farzana. He made me crazy, gives me a hug pre-pandemic. He says, Rabbi Morty, I'm getting married. I said, great, now you can become someone else's problem. I'm going to live on the East Coast. I said, noch besser. I said, what can I do for you? Mazel tov, Jewish girl, fine girl. What? So he says, I have to make a living. What should I become, a dancer or a singer? So I go like this a few times to my mask. And I said, you should become a dancer. He says, great. Jumps up on my desk and starts to do the Irish jig. He said, Rabbi Morty, you see me dance? I said, never. But I've heard you sing. So in our world, we have to choose and match the way we have to go. And tonight, it's Lechatchilla Ariber. So what do I have, 5-10 minutes? Keep going. This is on Mashka.
We'll get the nice Mashka. What are you doing, vices together?
I'm Scott. Lift from the gun. I'm a bracha. Rabbi Cunin, indeed, everyone here. Say all the best.
Man.
Now on the line.
Where you're a delight.
I'm a very big delight. So we just read in Shul, and we all know the Torah. This is the midpoint. When I was in South Africa, they took me from Joburg to Cape Town one day to see the Etzba Lekim Taka, very gorgeous there. And I didn't want to take the whole drive 3 hours to Cape Point. You put on a Google for a second, you see whatever you can see there. That's the point where the Indian Ocean, it looks like a chont on Shabbos, dirty, warm water, meeting the Atlantic, the azure green water, which we've all caught so many fish from, and they collide. And you see the Etzba Lekim. Because it's not the pshat God made a world and then he said, let me name this, this, and that, that. He made a world with distinctive properties, with exactitude, with inherent qualities to every particular part of the world. When you see that collision, it's unbelievable. Al derech zeh, a sirachatus, Moshe Rabbeinu had a problem. They ate two, they burnt one, and he got upset. And Lepoil, this is the spot in the Torah where I think my time is up. So this is the part where the Torah collides. The beginning with the end. What's the chiluk between Dorosh and Dorash? It's a cholam versus a patach. A cholam is miloshin chaloim. It's a dream. It's not real. It's not palpable. It's not reality. It's not mamoshistic. It's actually antithetical to everything that we are. The patach is pasua. It's flowing, it's open, it's there, it's happening, it's a reality that nothing can change. The question is quicker or slower, but it's here. It's presented itself, and it's inherent of our being. The beginning of shlichus, Andram Gitainet, it's a cholam. Who knows how much, who can, where, when. You know, Rabbi Cunin is a bacher, would fix a lot of the plumbing that went on in Camp God Israel. He also made the Rebbe much more comfortable, that the Rebbe shouldn't stand in the snow and in the rain, in the oil. Not everybody knows that. It took a little chutzpah, didn't know if he should or shouldn't, but he did it. And when Rabbi Cunin was given California, he told this many times. How many people were told that, oh, you'll be back here in 3 months with all your bagage? 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. Scholarship, huh? The chaloim is over. It's not about Dorosh. It's about the meshing, the manifestation of reality of Dorash. It's not about maybe or perhaps. It's about guys who go out on shlichus. In 4 years, they raise $3-4 million and they build buildings. Who's gehetgebar in Azadah? So I want to keep it short tonight. And I want to tell you that there is a snagdus out there. Mibifnim, umibachutz. Whether it be a person who I encountered last week, it's not important what the story is, but the Dan Matzach, whether he learned in Baltimore or Lakewood, ich vernish this both. Or chas v'sholom, someone who opposes you and the Rebbe in West Coast policy, and they learn to take Chetzmimim. And they find a mashpia in Yehupitzville in India who said, you can do this. You don't have to ask the Shliach al-Assad. They tiny, they're helping me bring Mashiach because the insolence is abundant. That's where we're at. The greater the success, the more it creates a figment of imagination of opposition, which is real at times, very real, and it aggravates us. What is the answer to aggravation? Don't fight darkness with darkness. Every single one of you here, yes, you got problems, and yes, overdrafts, and yes, we all have issues, but we are the best. We live in a world of falsity. The Dorash is a magnification of the Rebbe, which emanated from the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash was a Rebbe and a Yid von Geferliche Yisurim, which are immeasurable and indescribable. I don't know, was his Meshoris Chaim Ber was his name. He asked him once to put on medicine on his back on the condition that he doesn't say what he sees, and he doesn't chalish. He doesn't chalish. Rebbe Marash went through hell every day of his life. Lepoil, my dear friends, brothers in arms, the tarnish is and the reason why we can be intimidated is because we within ourselves feel impotent. We feel sensitive. What is this one saying? What is that one saying? Rabbi Cunin's favorite saying many years. Talk about me good, talk about me bad, as long as you talk about me. We are in the driver's seat. There is no power in the world that resembles in any way, shape, or form Chabad Lubavitch. I'm going to tell a story because I remembered it. I actually spoke to him today, to my brother-in-law, Rabbi Zalman Litzker from Philadelphia. Been a shliach there almost 56 years, went out in Toshin Chabad. And in his earlier years, he would be a teacher in the Beth Jacobs school. Like we have an Emek Hebrew Academy, 3/4 of the teachers of Lubavitcher. They had such a situation. And I'm not going to say the name of the principal. It's also Lubavitcher then. And they went to him a Torah Masorah gathering. And they went to a Torah Masorah gathering, and they were in school, and he was from the Chosheva Yidden, and he sat in the front row. And a famous Rosh Yeshiva who has the same name as the dear Rebbe who passed away recently, with his yahrzeit a day or two ago, he had the same name as him, cousin. And he didn't say a bad word about Lubavitch, but he didn't say a good word either. He did start in 250 teachers from all around the East Coast, Torah Masorah. We get along with them. We certainly did in those years, so to speak. And this Gadol B'Yisrael is speaking about the achievement that if there is a remnant of Judaism today in Artzis Habris, because of my Rebbe, and he mentions the man who was in Lakewood, then he brought in the Satmaru for good measure. There's anything, a yeshiva, a day school, it's only because of these giants. My Rebbe. My brother-in-law is sitting there and hate on kochen. And he couldn't handle it. And at the end, he gets up and he says, Anschuldig, al pidin, muzik machen am macha. You didn't say anything bad, but you didn't mention my Rebbe or his father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe, who brought Judaism to America, the Mesiras Nefesh. I have no problem with you talking about your Rebbes, but this is my Rebbes, and I make a macha, and I'm walking out now, and have a good day. Made a tumult. I remember he called me up. I'm his younger brother-in-law, but we talked. And he says, I said, Zicher, aber amal dak machen a churban. So he saw Manas Livnes. And he says, I don't care. I think I did the right thing. But I'm already getting it over the head from some of the lighter weights that I made a tumult. I said, you shouldn't make a tumult. He's a few days later in Crown Heights by a simcha. He goes into 770 Chapen Amincha, Rabbi Binyamin Klein Ol V'Shalom. They're fine Yid, Rabbi Binyamin. He comes over to him, he says, Rav Chadakov like that. She says, oh boy, I probably messed up 4 days ago. Or Chadakov would speak to the earlier shluchim all the time. He walks into his office/closet. Yes, Rabbi Cunin. And was macht u Mishpach, was Herzog Philadelphia? Ich will euch übergeben von der heiche Fensterin a große Yashikoya, was du es getan a Portek zurück, was du es gestanden stark vor der Chabad Lubavitch, und ich gebe euch über noch einmal a große Yashikoya. So I want to impart to everybody.
Translate this.
I want to give over to you from the high windows. I'm not sure if he said from the Rebbe because he spoke that way. No, because sometimes there has to be or a plausible deniability. But it was a clear indication. The Rebbe is telling you a big yashikoyach for standing firm for the honor of Chabad Lubavitch worldwide. And I want to say to you again to reiterate yashikoyach. So he already felt good. I'm sure my sister was happy about that. Yeah. Yeah. I should cut the challah or. So I want another 90 seconds. Yeah. For old time's sake. I'm going to give you my watch. I sent a WhatsApp this week. The way the Rebbe talks about a brief. He got a letter. As ich will the Rebbe's own rebenchen, as my kind, my child, should be inculcated that there's only two things in life, Lubavitch, the Eibishter and Lubavitch. The Rebbe repeated it 3-4 times. There's only two things, and everything else is an optical illusion. Yep. And the Rebbe said, Befrat em, But says about boss and he has to go out into the world. And the Rebbe said it so many times over. And then he, of course, classified it. Was meant to us that my child should have only the Eibishter and Lubavitch. I mean, Lubavitch means Dark Chassidus, Liber Chassidus, the Jewish way, etc., etc. We see the Rebbe Stolzkeit. How many times the Rebbe thanked people for on them and the covered from Lubavitch. That's my parting shot to everyone. You are the best. You are better than the rest. Lechatchilla Ariber, don't get down from the enmity that we face. We still face a lot of enmity. Go out there and do what you have to. The Rebbe is emes, nachal shavel. The only thing that we are, Pusharim to the Rebbe, and we are emes. Thank you, Yashkaya
Another one of the Lechatchilla Ariber stories growing up was when the year that Rabbi Cunin and my sister Esty got married, when the Rebbe instructed with the Tanya. There's a fantastic story that is associated with the over the top Lechatchilla Ariber. And I asked Rabbi Ariber to please come forward and to share of the Ayam Mahim Bisman Hazeh regarding the Tanyas. Thank you.
Time. Starting at Tavshin and Dalet, Shabbos before the Chabad, Shabbos boy that I spoke about, the famous story of the Baal Shem Tov, Rosh Hashanah, Yad Aliyah Neshama, Bechal HaMashiach, yes, Musay Kol Seimar, Mashiach answered, Mashiach Putzah Manasech Putzah. Rebbe then said, that saw, print out Tanyas, every place where Eden lived should be a Sefer Tanya. What was the Sefer Tanya? Rebbe spoke to Shalach, Yishvat, that why not take a Tanya printed in Brooklyn, or in Chabad, and bring it to your city and study Tanya? That's a Putzah Manasech Putzah. You take the waters of the well into every corner of the world. The chiddush of printing a Tanya in the local place was that the mayonis itself should be chutzah. Not just the water of the mayonis, the source of the mayonis should be chutzah. The concept of lifts of printing Tanya was to bring the mayonis, the mocker itself, to each place. First out in every country that should be printed itself. There should be then in the States and every city. And it became Baruch Hashem, California. Every other neighborhood, Baruch Hashem, Shluchim are not just divided by cities, but also neighbors everywhere. There's a Chabadas, in places that were no Chabadas yet, Tanya was printed. So Tavshin Mem Dalet, before I came, I was in London, we printed Tanya in London. But the Mem Dalet, I'm not sure who's in charge, but I look now, I sent out in the chat, there's a bilingual Tanya from Tavshin Test 2 years ago in the back. The first time they start dividing into not only countries, but also states. If you look in a couple of pages, you see all the Tanyas of California, you can see on the chat. And you look for your city. If you, first of all, if there's a Tanya in your city, you can find it here somewhere. I'd rather take the box. But if not, that's all you should print Tanyas. Today is a lot easier than it was when I did in Tavshin Memches. Rabbi Cunin asked me to get a motorhome. We went to get a motorhome, I believe it was in Anaheim, where Rabbi Eliezer was then. And we got a printing machine. Not like today, you have digital. AB Dick was the name of the machine, a heavy duty machine. And we took a forklift that we had to fit into the motorhome. How do we fit in the motorhome with barely any space? So we unscrewed the table out, put a big plastic over the two seats. We got the motorhome to pick it up over the door, just made it.
into between the seats, not tied to anything, just sitting there. And we got Kidman from the Vlad upstairs. We imported him to California, and we started printing with a whole list of places we went. Mamish, about 70 places that we. Right. So one of the Tanyas. So every Tanya they wrote is to print 100 copies. But then in the middle of all that, we just had to call Shalom Jacobson in New York, make a sharblat, and you give us a sharblat. We went and printed every place of Emin and Encino, the old Encino. I couldn't find it. I drove back and forth. Where's this Chabad of Encino? Behind the bushes, I finally found a little drive-through, and the machine broke. No, that was a year before, 2 years before. Membo, right? Membo, the Memches, we remember printed in the Chabad, the old Chabad in Encino, and the Menius Bikuvim. Once the motorhome broke, the machine broke. Baruch Hashem, we overcame all the Menius Bikuvim. Printed over 70 Tanyas, Baruch Hashem, 100 copies in each. Talking about when the Menius Bikuvim, we're driving, coming from Hollywood, there's a descending coming from the freeway near Los Feliz, but there's you go down to the red light, the street goes like this. And suddenly realize that we have a loose, heavy machine behind us. Remember, Bosch, it's after the 2 seats behind us, the machine would have been there. I don't know what happened to us. Baruch Hashem, over Baruch Hashem, 70 places. But then Rabbi Cunin, when it came Yom Mahim Bizman Hazeh, Chedesh year was between Pesach and Shavuos that we did this. In order to make a sharblat to be printed in the courthouse. We're having Netzach Shebenetzach, we're having a court case for the 21 million, which was already settled, but it will be confirmed by the court. Year Netzach Shebenetzach. So make a sharblat. So what sharblat we should be? It should be Beis Iyyar Farbrengen, Los Angeles. The court of Los Angeles. And where we're going to print. Upstairs, we can print a big machine to where? We're out. We do that. Just make the sharblat, leave it up to me. Bring over the motorhome downtown, and I'll take care of it. Call me when you get there. So the day of Netzach Shebenetzach, Yud Toshem Memches, the big miracle of the 21 million. We bring the motorhome. Call Rabbi Cunin, he comes downstairs. He takes over the motorhome right before the court case, early in the morning. And he said, where are you taking? Bagenish. He goes over to the gate where all the police cars are parked. And he goes over, he says something to them. Suddenly, and the gates open and let him in with motorhome, right in the parking lot of the courthouse. So it's part of the courthouse. And there he prints not 100 copies, but 500 copies we printed. Many of you probably have the Tanya, Beis Mishpat Elyon. And then there was a famous attorney general. We told many times the story. What was his name? Schwartz, attorney general. And in the very beginning of this case, when it came Memvov, by the way, she passed away just a few days before my wedding, and she left us in the will too. That's what I got. In the will, she had all these names. I have a copy of it. And one of the things is, because for the bride and groom, also want to leave something. $300 million now, $300. That was our portion. We couldn't get it until all the positions were taken, until the settlements. We finally got our check for $300. So it came, Schwartz came at the very beginning around Memvov. And he spoke to Rabbi Cunin about it. He said, I will pay back my debt. How are you going to? I have a Rebbe, Rabbi Neerson, and he promised that we'll take care of it. Fulfillment of the prophet will be happening to us in our generation. So he told Rabbi Cunin, when hair grows in my palm, you'll see the money. You have no chance against Weinberg. Weinberg has the top attorneys in the country who will fight you. You will not get a penny from him. Rabbi Cunin said, my Rebbe said, we'll get it. I'm sure we will. The day of Netzach Shebenetzach, he walked into the motorhome, saw the Tanya printing. He told Rabbi Cunin, not only I believe in your Rebbe, but I know that he has his hands on your shoulders all the time. And they put on film right there, right on the Schwartz, right on by the motorhome, by the printing of Tanya today. Then we went upstairs, and we heard from the mouth of the judge, actual settlement took place in Netzach Shebenetzach, and most of the money was wired direct. Rabbi Cunin went to jail. around to all the ones that we had papers. And with the checkbook, some of them felt that they won the lottery. They had never.
The Rambam. He is right?
Some of the people couldn't believe they would ever get a part of it, and then they just give me this. But the Mamish went and paid everyone after most of the money was wired straight to the bank. That's where most of the people were. But the individuals were paid back the last penny that they didn't.
I have something. The Rebbe was very hungry. I'm going to stay here and continue. The Rebbe was very hungry. The Rebbe was very hungry, waiting to hear if we got the wire. I kept getting calls. Some were coming together. The wire got lost in the Federal Reserve System. It took another day. When the Rebbe's given hungry, till the actual money came.
Right, actually, it was that was the year, my first year in Shlichus, when I came Zion. It was a whole year of the positions and writing to the Rebbe back and forth, back and forth. The first offer they made, I believe, was first for 5 million. Rabbi Cunin said absolutely not. Then it went up to 10 million, and even our attorney started to say, Rabbi Cunin, 10 million bucks to get most of the chayv paid, and then we'll figure it out that, you don't have much of a chance against this guy. 10 million, absolutely, Rebbe promised, Rebbe will fulfill. And when it came to 18, they were able to push off 1921, and that's what it says. So, open mirror, we see the miracles of Elisha nowadays, the Rebbe, the Bishop of our generation. I was there right in the beginning of my shlichus to see that Mamish b'moyenenu with our own eyes, not only seeing the back and forth. I thought my truths I have answers, even wrote with our own. We used to write the letters to the petals to the Rebbe and get an answer. We used to write on in the petal the answer from the Rebbe, and we saw Mamish this miracle. We have to understand Rebbe's mittuns. Rebbe carries us just like my Moshe Rabbeinu from the Mishnah. Because how in the world am I going to do this? Imagine all the craters and all the beams. How in the world am I going to lift up? David says, just put your hands underneath, make yourself like you are going to lift. And the whole mission was directed. Exactly our story of our shlichus. When I was introduced right at the beginning of my shlichus with this, gave an incredible encouragement to being around Rabbi Cunin and seeing miracles happening day in, day out. With the Hom Rebbe, with the 11 of Nissan, which is coming from Chedish Nissan, Mamshel, and all of them. Chedish Nissan, from Nesach Shebenetzach, so Lechatchilla Ariber, with Rebbe, Beis Iyyar Farbrengen. Take of me on Mamshel, L'chaim.
42 million.
Amen.
Amen. L'chaim.
Got a great sense of timing.
So before I'm going to introduce our next speaker, because it's a young shliach, I just want to share a Lechatchilla Ariber story that's personal. I have to share with you earlier. There are many of them, but one of the early ones. This is around 20 years ago. There was one Shabbos Farbrengen in Hezron time that I received after Shabbos. I found a phone call from my father, and he was in New York. And he said, "I'm coming tomorrow." I'd then been in Malibu for 3 years. I was living in an apartment. We were doing our shul out of a little store, a second story of the store. He said, "I'm coming tomorrow." I came from the oil now. "I'm coming tomorrow, and we're going to find the Chabad of Malibu." I was, of course, I'm in. What I got to do is just be ready to take over. The whole Monday we're going to be driving whatever until we find the Chabad. Okay? So my brother Tzemach Olav Shalom was in the office upstairs over here. And after davening, I picked up my father and we went to Malibu. This is how it went. We look at a building and say, "What's that?" And I would tell him, by then I already knew a lot of the possibilities that could have been. And I would say what it is. He said, "Who owns it?" So I said, "I'm not sure." So we called Tzemach. Here's the address. He had LexisNexis here. I think the Lyle Weissman, that program that you're able to see who owns what and the telephone number. And within 5 minutes, I found the phone. "Mr. Greenstein, yeah. I want to buy your place up in the escape. Not for sale." I hang up. And that kind of went on. The message, stopping up places, where that was it, And we were, there was a lot of follow-up that we had to make because there were people that did meet and then follow-up. And it was the early days of the winter, so the sun was going down by 5 o'clock, and the sun was literally setting. And my father looked up at the place where we are today, and he said, "And what's that?" And I had done some research on it, but it was kind of a complicated property. He said, "Let's go." And we went out there, and there was a woman working in an office over there. It was a home that was converted into an office building, had several different offices and had some apartments. It's kind of a mixed use type of thing. And gets on the phone and she says, the owner's not here, but I have his phone number. And picks up the phone to this guy named Ron Jenny, and he said, "How did you find out so quickly?" "What are you talking about?" I said, "How'd you find out it's for sale? I just looked like 10 minutes ago, finished signing the paper with the broker that it's for sale." So my father right away said, "Okay, we got to meet right away. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I'm sorry, it wasn't 9. It wasn't 9. It worked out to be towards the end of the day. It worked out to be like 3 or 4 p.m. And that was an important part of the story. So we went the next day, and I met my father. We ended up meeting at the real estate place. My father told me I should bring a checkbook. In our Chabad account, we were a minus. I don't think we had a personal account yet. Maybe we did, but it was all down to like the 0 level. And I had a building account that I opened up for a clean, but it was also empty, of course. So my father told me I should bring a checkbook. And we were walking in, and my father said to me, he said, "Listen, I'm the expert in real estate. So you just watch and let me handle the biz." Okay. So we walk into the office, and every one of them were using. I think we had 3 or 4 carcasses, including the person who owned the property. And they wanted 2.1 million for 2 properties, which today that's a joke in comparison. And by the time we walked out of the office, by the time we finished the deal, they accepted something called the bargain sale. Whether you may be familiar with it, the bargain sale, which would have resulted in $1.6 million of actual monies. And then if we could get an appraisal for 2.3 million or something like that, then it'll even itself out and 1.6 to accept. But here was the caveat. My father said, well, 90 days, only 2 or 3 contingencies, cash, 1.6 million. Okay, I'm sitting there. I thought he had something up his sleeve I don't know about. So that's great. And then they wanted $25,000, or actually $50,000. They wanted $50,000 to open up the escrow. My father says, "Rebbe, you got the checkbook?" Of course. So my hand was shaking. Oh no, but I got the strength together and said, "Write the check for 50. Write the check." Master, we're all dancing. Yesterday we got on the phone just as I felt 60 days. Okay? Everybody's happy. They're excited. It just happened so quickly. And then we go to the garage. My father says, "Baby, you got 60 days to raise $1.6 million. And don't let that check bounce tomorrow." And that was the beginning of a big nest. And many other parts of that story. And the next night, I borrowed the money that night from someone who maybe that coming around was very helpful. Allowed me to get the ball rolling. And Baruch Hashem is because, and it is because of Lechatchilla Ariber that we are in that property. And Baruch Hashem, this past year, also a very big Lechatchilla Ariber story. We actually have a kosher woman's mikveh now, Malibu, about a Malibu, which started with this story. So it's a personal story, one of the many personal stories of Lechatchilla Ariber. And I share that, and I was a young shliach then. Rabbi Einbinder mentioned correctly how today the shluchim are within a year they're building $6 million, $10 million buildings. Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Cunin paved the way for me personally and for so many others, and I also know this. And on that note, I'm going to ask Rabbi Sarota from Lechatchilla from El Segundo. Is he here? Rabbi Sarota.
Where?
Here you are. Rabbi Sarota from El Segundo. New blood on the block.
Chaim, Chaim.
Lechatchilla Ariber. So first, I want to start by thanking the Rebbe for giving me this chus beyond shlichus. There's no other life I would want. Hashet. I have to thank the Rebbe. That's it. And I want to move on from the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the shluchim, the shliach Rashi, Rabbi Cunin, a great dying, and the shliach Rashi by me, Rabbi Yossi Mintz. And I want to just say 3 points today. 3 points in my mind. First of all, shlichus since I came, Tu B'Av, Tafshin Pei, August 5th, 2020. Even though it's COVID, it's been shturendik. Since the first day I've arrived, not one day that I haven't got a tefillin, not 1 week almost that I haven't got a kakafta. Hashet shturendik in Mivtzayim. I want to just share one story. I was here 5 years ago. I went to do for the Kinnus HaShluchim winter camp in Glendale. So first I came, me and my chavrusa, we came to help Rabbi Moshe Brisky in Agura Hills. That was my first time coming to California for shlichus. Him and Rabbi Levin, Rabbi Levine. And we took a Lyft driver from the airport by night to Agura Hills. A Lyft driver was an older man, around 70 years old. And I asked the man, are you Jewish? He said, yes, I am. Of course I'm Jewish. My name is Sai Levin. I said, where do you live? He said, I live near the airport. I said, can we be in touch? Can we get in contact? Because you're Jewish. Have you ever done tefillin in your life? He said, no, I've never done tefillin in my life. It was by night, so we couldn't put on film. I gave him candles because it was Thursday night. I gave him a $5 tip, so he likes me. And I got his number. The whole time we were in Glendale, I tried to get him to come to the Glendale camp, so all the kids will see also. But he couldn't come. I couldn't go to him. And we lost touch. That's it. I went back to Crown Heights, to Smicha, whatever, and so on and so forth. I came now again. I remembered I always had his number saved, and I remember that he lived near the airport. I come now back to visit, to check out the Makom HaShlichus, and I remember that he is right near the airport. And when I come to my Makom HaShlichus, I see that I'm right out of the airport, right in El Segundo, right there. Like, he must live here. He must live here. I give him a call, and I say, hi, Sai. He answered the phone. He hasn't answered a long time. I say, Sai, do you remember me? You were my driver. I gave you a tip. I gave him. And he remembered me. He said, for sure, I remember you gave me the candles. The first time I lit Shabbos candles. My mother was for sure so happy, so proud. And I said, well, guess what? There's good news. I moved to right near the airport, El Segundo. I would love to meet you to do the film that we spoke about. He said, I'm very worried about COVID now. I'm not leaving the house. I can't. I'm sorry. We'll have to do it later. Anyways, I forgot about it, and I did I kept on going on my shlichus. And he never gave me his address, nothing. Yesterday, when Rabbi Cunin called me, or 2 days ago, when he asked me to talk, he inspired me and he gave me this special edus to find Sai 11 and go put him on film for the first time. So I looked on Google and I searched every Sai 11, and the Sai 11 that matched with that number, who lives in El Segundo, California, pretty crazy, in a little outskirts of the El Segundo. I go to his house today at 11 o'clock. I knock on his door. Somebody opens the door, a Chinese guy. I say, does Sai 11 live here? He says, yes, Sai 11 lives here. I said, I need to see him. Very, very important. An older Chinese guy. He says, but Sai is sleeping. I said, okay, I'll wait. I waited an hour and a half, and Sai woke up. He woke up at 1:30 because he works during the night. He's a Postmate driver now. So
Yeah. Anyways, he sees me and he's shocked, and he gives me a huge hug, and he says, "My rabbi." And he brings me into his house. We did fill in. We have a picture for the first time in his life. I put up a mezuzah right there on his door. And Amir Hashem, he's coming to my house for a Friday night dinner, and he's going to start coming to shul. That's the Maisa with Tzai Levin. In honor of 2000 McKent, in honor of Chofetz Nissen, this week actually, the Chabad over there, we got 5 new pairs of tefillin for 5 teens. I just want to tell you their names because they all sound not Jewish. Sammy Valdaris, I got him to start putting on tefillin every day. He had his own pair. Alex Cortez, his last name is Cortez. Jeremy Peets, last name is Peets. Avram Eloni, and Remy Ashloing. These are the 5 kids this week. They got their own pair of tefillin. They started putting on tefillin every day. That's just a little, maybe. That's the second point. And the third point, today's a Yom Yom. I feel it's very important. Since I moved on Shlichus, every single day, I have a Google Sheet. Every single thing I do during the day, from the morning when I wake up, I put in the Google Sheets. Every time I go to the Rebbe, I let the Rebbe know that I have this Google Sheets filled out, a duch of every single thing that happens, how many tefillin, today 6 tefillin, 1 bar mitzvah, 2 mezuzahs, the club at Redondo Union, at Maricosta, everything that happened during the day, who I learned with, who I spoke to, the names, where it happened on the Google Sheets, and I feel that this gives me a huge service to continue to get more, to put more in the Google Docs, to give the Rebbe more nachas ruach. It's unbelievable, and that's today's Yom to have every single hour, every single day documented, and give the Rebbe grace and nachas ruach. L'chaim as Mashiach Zoshen coming.
Amen.
You see what a young shliach is today. So when I tell you, tired of looking, that we have to bring up more young people, because young people have the koiches. Ask them to look to Echad, Beis Yisrael, knocking on the doors. Oh, but what do you mean? It's within 15 miles of my place. 15 miles? And you're kind of busy on a day-to-day basis. Don't you have to drive your kids to the cheder, and you have to come here, you gotta go there. There's this, you have that doctor's appointment because he's older. You haven't got the courage to go knocking door to door. But I have a daughter. My daughter, she will get married, and she and her husband will be the shluchim here. I said to him, how old is your daughter? 3 years old. I said, 3 years old, she's getting married? I said, Rivka could get married by 3 years old. Why can't my daughter get married by 3 years old? This protectionism is unfortunate. Outlop, Hamitit Ashlenu. We have to back the door. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just get it done. That is coming to the I understand you. Ik heb gezegd, to look to Echad. But I was so busy. I couldn't speak. So when you see Rabbi Yossi sitting here, and myself, shoulder to shoulder, when we say we want to open up a new place, don't get scared. Don't get scared. If you have a big boss, he lives there, so what? So what? Nobody's going to take a penny. I think we need a little bit of music. Beguns are here. Lady?
Wait, maybe begun. Mendel begun. Come.
Rabbi Cunin.
Huh?
It's for same Rebbe.
Acapella. Come on, Mendel, come on.
Is it on the microphone? Huh? Yeah.
Ayayam, ayayam, dira, Shin hamaloi seladoi noi batzoros oli korosi vayanem Adonai hatzilona shim mispas sheker lo soirim Ma'yitein lecho, ma'yosif lo, lo shoineriyo. Chitzegi b'orsheli, in gachalei resomi. No yoli kigarti mesher shochanti molei keyor Rabba shochno nafshi soloi soloi ani soloi vechi rabbi Hey mala milchama Yisraeloim bechi adabe Hey mala
Nicholas Adler Martin the Simcha Adler here of a Perlmutter. Another one of our great legendary Lechatchilla Ariber of California. Needs no further introduction of a Perlmutter.
47th speaker.
What's that?
47th speaker.
The 47th speaker of Koyak Super.
So they needed someone Zelu Mazeh. Rabbi Cunin on one side, Purim on the other side, because Lechatchilla Ariber is something you only get in California, the fumes from Rabbi Cunin. But since tonight is turned into Rabbi Cunin's testimonial dinner, she never really got what she deserves. I mean, way beyond. And since I'm in Long Beach, I'm going to take the opportunity to talk about how Long Beach was started. Baruch Hashem, we have a big school, very successful. Rabbi Cunin's children went to the school, the Hebrew Academy in Long Beach for a while. So maybe 3,000-4,000 kids have already gone through it. Baruch Hashem, a number of shuls in Long Beach. That spawned on Orange County. Orange County now has probably 30 shluchim itself in Orange County. It all started like this. Rabbi Cunin was bringing out Avremel Fried before Avremel Fried was Avremel Fried. He still was wearing shorts in those days. Concert on the West Coast. Okay. And now he has to sell tickets. So that's the Lechatchilla Ariber. You don't sell tickets and then get your star. Get your star and then you start selling tickets. So you heard that in Long Beach, there's a fellow by the name of Irving Moskowitz. Dr. Irving Moskowitz. He was a doctor like I'm an astronaut. He was a businessman, but he had a name and doctor, but he owned the hospitals, and now he owns a casino, and he owns the whole Hawaiian Gardens, basically. So Rabbi Cunin decides he's going to go down and see Mr. Dr. Moskowitz in Long Beach, California. He has within in his pocket 5 golden tickets. Each ticket for $50. Comes down, sits down with Dr. Moskowitz. Dr. Moskowitz, I'd like you, I'm doing a concert. I want you to buy some golden tickets. How many? 5. How much? $250. You got it. Oh, already a success. And then Dr. Moskowitz, this is Tuesday morning, Dr. Moskowitz turned to Rabbi Cunin and says, Rabbi Cunin, we don't have here a Chabad in Long Beach. How do we get one here? How much would it cost to get a shliach here? Rabbi Cunin turns, thinks on the spot. He said to Levi, you be quiet, okay? $30,000, you get yourself, I'll bring down a rabbi. He says, $30,000, you got it. And when can he be here? Friday. So Moskowitz says, like a year Friday, 2 years Friday, Friday. But Rabbi Cunin, it's Tuesday. He says, yeah, we'll open up here Friday. What do you mean, this Friday? What don't you understand, Dr. Moskowitz? It's English. This Friday we'll have a minyan here in Long Beach. We're opening up a minyan right here, Friday. He goes, this he never heard. I mean, talk about Lechatchilla Ariber, but this is, what did Murray call craziness? I mean, Tuesday to start his Moised on Friday. I mean, the Federation takes 27 years to do this. Rabbi Cunin is talking about 27 hours. Let's be honest over here. He says, okay. So they found a place. Tuesday, they went out. Wednesday, they found a little hole on top of a bar. Rabbi Cunin got a van, kidnapped 8 people by gunpoint, which he took away from the guy downstairs. He wants to know what he did with the gun. He put bullets in the gun, kidnapped 8 guys, drove him down to Long Beach, made a minyan the first Friday upstairs on the bar. That's how Chabad of Long Beach was started. I mean, no thinking, no planning, no board, nothing. Lechatchilla Ariber. You need a Moised. This is what it is, and it's there. And this is how it started. Then he decided that he hired a shliach, Rabbi Ephraim Pekarsky was the first shliach in Long Beach. They decided they're going to make a school. Okay, you need a school, you need a building. So Rabbi Cunin gets himself a motorhome, a big motorhome. He says, we have to park it somewhere. So they go, where can we park? There's a JCC. We're going to park it in the parking lot of the JCC. And this is where he tells Rabbi Pekarsky the same thing he told Levi. We're going to go and negotiate, you be quiet. He comes in, the guy says,
We have a school here, Rabbi Cunin, in the line. There's no school, there's no kid. It's up to a motorhome. We have a school here. We need a place to we need a place to house it. We want to house it right here. We have 50 kids in it. In the meantime, Perkarsky is sweating. Rabbi Cunin has his hand on his knee, squeezing hard, so there's no blood going to his brain, so he shouldn't say anything. And the guy, I think, told Rabbi Cunin, if you have a school here, I'll eat my hat. No, didn't he say something? I'll eat my hat. Gerald Bubis, Rabbi Engel remembers him. Gerald Bubis, you have a school there, I'll eat my hat. A few years later, Rabbi Cunin went like this to him. Gerald, here's the hat, start chewing. Start chewing. And that's how the school got started. Lechatchilla Ariber, one after the other, one miracle after another miracle. Now, this is not for everybody. Like, you have to put a little note. This is only for entertainment purposes only. Don't try this at home. You don't have the connections, and you don't have the wherewithal, and you don't have the strength. But because we live here in California, and this is a blessed state, this is a state that has gone Lechatchilla Ariber. Every one of us lives that way in a certain way. Even a scaredy cat like me has to also face the music every once in a while. We've had a tough year. This has not been an easy year. I mean, last year we had this on Zoom. The year has been tough, both financially. I mean, a lot of people, even in the best years, tell you they have a bad year. But in a bad year, imagine what they're saying. But nonetheless, something exciting happens. What happened at JCC, where we have some of our programs right now, we decided early on when the new school year started, that we're going to open up our Hebrew school in person, the only one in town. All the other temples were only doing Zoom. We decided we're going to go in place. We thought that the JCC wasn't easy. The same JCC that Rabbi Cunin broke through so many years ago was not easy. They put us so many restrictions. I want to give a shout out to my son and daughter-in-law because, like Rabbi Cunin said, the young shluchim go way beyond. I mean, she has done things crazy. Well, the first thing is we lost a bunch of people from last year. Rabbi, how could you? How could you? In person, don't you understand what's going on? We took all the precautions, masks, this, hats, the body wear, the astronaut uniform, whatever they wanted. We're outdoors. We're outdoors. Don't go in. Don't go anyplace. So we started off the year. We weren't thrilled because we had lost some really good families, and they weren't coming back this year. But then all of a sudden, something strange started to happen. We started to get calls from families from the Reformed Temple because the Reformed Temple didn't want to go, and they only did it on Zoom. And a lot of the parents were upset because they were getting nothing. And they started to call us, and we picked up a number of kids from the Reformed Temple over the year that joined the Hebrew school. And if the trend, I believe, is continuing, and I could say the same thing is true for the Hebrew Academy, that the Hebrew Academy also, Rabbi Newman, who's not here this evening, spent a ton of money putting into place all of the precautions. And Baruch Hashem, there was an increase in kids, a little increase. I mean, it's so counterintuitive on a day like today. But if you do, like Rabbi Cunin keeps pumping away, keep pumping away. Just don't look left or right. Just keep straight. Great things will happen. They will happen. Even if your heart is pumping like this and you're thinking to yourself, everything is going down. But I'm not talking about something, the Alter Rebbe's times. This is happening today, and I believe that we have an unbelievable opportunity. Because Chabad was one of the few organizations, I'm not going to say the only one, I can't say that, but one of the few organizations that did go out there on a limb when people were begging to please have in-person services, and we did it with all of the precautions and make sure that everybody was healthy. I believe we will be rewarded if, and here's the big caveat, if we continue to plug away and do what's right. If we do that and just keep our eyes, just every single day, plug away, I believe great things are going to happen. It reminds me just of a sikha that I just saw with talking, a Farbrengen over here. Here in California, Lechatchilla Ariber is the theme, and rightfully so. Where I come from, in Montreal, the holiday is Yid Shvat, because Montreal was built by 9 Polacks. Short guys, the tallest one was about 4'4". He was the center fielder. My 4th grade teacher, Rabbi Stein, was 3'4". He was the catcher. He didn't have to crouch. can tell me. His grandfather was one of them. I think Olitsky was about middle, shortstop. And to them, each Shvat was the holiday of holidays. We went to the Yud Shvat HaGadol, 5 buses from Montreal, and every Shvat, I mean, to them, this was the holy of holy days. And Yud Shvat Tovshin Chavav, which happened to be the first Farbrengen that I was there, the Rebbe spoken into Sikha about the Shver. That in Russia, the Mesiras Nefesh that the Shver had in Russia was two-sided. He went from one extreme to the other extreme. From one extreme, he went and had the month and Chassidim, everything. That means you'll daven b'avodah, learn Chassidus the whole Thursday night. I mean, mahadrin min mahadrin. And if you didn't do it, the Friedrich Rebbe was, our Rebbe was, he wouldn't zidel your ice in public. The Friedrich Rebbe, if you read the Sikhs, he would go after you in public. And not once, and the Rebbe writes in the Sikha, not once, but many times, and to many, many people. So on one hand, even in the darkest of times, the Friedrich Rebbe meant that this avodah has to happen. On the other extreme, he took care of the, what we call the taf. I mean, those kids that the Dalim, the Rush, the communists that they knew nothing. And he writes in this period, the Rebbe the Shver wrote the Tifas Maimarim, and then started to write the Sefer of the crimes, Lakoti Deburim. And then people had a time to the Friedrich Rebbe about the Lakoti Deburim writes. Somebody look up the Sikha. They said, what's he writing Lakoti Deburim? What is this about? The job of a Rebbe is to teach Chassidus. Wasn't Lakoti Deburim stories? The Rebbe Friedrich was writing stories. It takes away from Chassidus. You want to be Makarev somebody? They said, give him a mimer. He doesn't understand the mimer. Give him a mimer in Yiddish. He doesn't understand the mimer in Yiddish, translated in English. He doesn't understand that. Teach him a Black Gemara, a Pasuk Chumash. But Lakoti Deburim, the Rebbe said the rest. But there are people that are not impressed with the Samachov, then that's not what their thing is. Not even a Black Gemara and not even a Pasuk Chumash, but they're ever writes. But a story about their Zayder. Now their Zayder lived in Russia with a beard and frumkeit. This is what's going to get them in. And then the Rebbe writes, and you see that when the Shver came to America, he did exactly the same thing. And on one hand, the freedom, everything, and then from the second hand, what did he do? This is also connected to California, Wednesday. And I think Rabbi Cunin, when he first came with the Wednesday hour, I think when Rabbi Rebbe, when he wanted to take out the first Shliach, I think the Rebbe said something as given in Mitzvah Shah, no? He had connected him in Mitzvah Shah. And the Rebbe writes in that Sikha that you see the greatest successes came from the Lakoti Deburim and Shah. Kids that knew nothing, absolutely nothing. That went to Wednesday hour today, about Shuvas, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I did just a little story about when Rabbi Yossi Shanowitz is from a big Schwitz family, the brother of your Schwager, Azriel Shanovitz. Azriel Shanovitz was a bacher that from Odessa, and he came to Paris, and he came to America 1 year after the Estalkus. He came around Purim time, Tovshin Yud. He was picked up at the docks by the Sharstein brothers, and Shabbos he spent in Manhattan. And they said, "Let's go. We'll meet the Rebbe." Sunday they come. The Rebbe was then saying Kaddish after Mincha. We're standing in the hallway, and they walked out and they said, "This is Azriel Shanovitz, an Ayabocher from Paris." And the first words the Rebbe said to him, looked him in the eyes, and said, "Mistama, well, probably you're going to get involved in Wednesday hour." This guy knew what Wednesday hour is, like quantum mechanics. Believe me, you see, Levi Greece doesn't know what quantum mechanics is. Okay? He had no clue, but Sharstein said to him, so yeah. He's telling him, tell the Rebbe, yeah. He says, yeah. Okay. But I had no idea. Sharstein then picked him up on Wednesday. They took him to Wednesday hour, and the son asked him, what did you do over there? He said, I don't know. I knew one English word, yeah. So my kid answered, I go to the bathroom, yeah. And I go, what? Yeah. And I go, did it? Yeah. And from the Wednesday hour, and then there's a long story in Hamshik to this. and his wife was in there, and then met, and they married, and Baruch Hashem, they have this huge family. So here you see the importance. I was thinking about the Hebrew school, how it grew this. The Hebrew school is the end of my existence. Who wants to go to Hebrew school? No one. But these are the kids that need us most, like the Wednesday hour kids. And when we do, like the Rebbe said to us real sandwich there, right away, a Bacher knew nothing, get involved, do something. You're here in America, make something out of yourself. Wednesday hour. We can do the same thing. We are able to really make a huge difference if we keep the eyes on the prize, if we understand that we are here with on a schus, that there's no guarantee, but we're here on a schus, that the Eibishter believes in us, that we will fulfill. And I have just one bakasha from the Eibishter. I said it a couple of nights ago, and I say the same thing. He said by that God, the Kisha Zakes, Baruch Shem after Chasri. So they read the Frierdiker writes, what's the big deal? Baruch Shem after Chasri, Baruch Hu. Why Baruch Hu? So it says, so the Frierdiker writes that because the Eibishter loves so much, imagine the nachasuach he gets when he comes to a Hebrew academy in Orange County. He sees 300-400 kids learning Torah every single day. He loves it. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. So in spite of his loving it, he decided he's going to take the Yidden out of Golus. And then the Rebbe adds a little hara there. He says, because Moshe Mashiach is only a schar, so therefore we would think, well, why not? Therefore, please, Rabbi Nishli, I know how much pleasure you'll get from all of the work of the 5,000 shluchim in the world. We know that. We know every day you're waiting for this. Please, please, please. Finish off this goals. Let's be together with the Rebbe. Take it from me, Yad Mamish. Where's my check? Where's my check? I told you to get check.
Thank you, Rebbe Perlmutter. Thank you, Rabbi Perlmutter. And another one of our legendary Lechatchilla Ariber of California, Rabbi Yossi Mintz, is a great example of the Lechatchilla Ariber with his. He said, please come and share. Thank you, Rabbi. Just quickly, this is what I would say. Every year we come here, and Rabbi Cunin repeats the stories, and it's always the story of the Nasim, that the energy and the vision and the inspiration is really the way we live our life every day. And Bayos and Ashluchis, very much so. Everything that I'm involved in, I speak to Rabbi Cunin often, very often. And the questions and the guidance and the involvement and the care is, I know that he's holding my hand and pushing me forward during some difficult, challenging times, especially over the last year. You know that there's a story just that comes up. I was thinking about a story that I heard. In the early years, it was in Tafshin Beis, Tafshin Gimel. They put together a booklet on Pesach in English, on Pesach and Hanukkah. The first booklet that they were involved in. And when they put it together, they did not put in Hanukkah Mois Tzur. And this was for the Eilam in the world. You know, this was for the release time. I don't know what was going on, but it wasn't for the Lubavitcher boys. It was Tafshin Beis, Tafshin Gimel. And they showed it to Yitzchak Groner. And the Rebbe was there. And he says, it's missing Mois Tzur. So the Rebbe had asked, what's his Mois Tzur? So Yitzchak Groner began to sing, Mois Tzur. The Rebbe made with his hands, and he walked away. Came to Pesach, they had the 4 kashis, the Chabad way. So again, Yitzchak Groner saw it, and he went over and he says, this is not for the Eilam, this is not the Seder we do it. So the Rebbe said as follows, the Rebbe the Shrer hat allmal gewollt, als die Eilam soll noch gehen uns, nicht als mir soll noch gehen die Eilam. This is something that does haste Lechatchilla Ariber. The Ge'ein Yaakov.
The Rebbe wants the Ge'ein Yaakov, and we see this by Rabbi Cunin and many of the shluchim here, that not to be afraid. Some challenges, and I share with you, when we opened the shul by us, this is an opportunity that we have, especially Chabad. I heard it many times over Pesach, someone mentioned to me, the only one who's going to be around is Chabad. The Meistis, they call them Meistis, these other organizations that are around, I can tell you in our community, they're hanging on for dear life. Why? Very simple. They're not providing anything. People just give for, why would they pay their membership if there's nothing going on? There's nothing going on. When this is part, no question, they're transforming the world, getting ready for Mashiach. They cannot be falsehood. Sheker. The Rebbe said in the first Maimer in Tovshin Yud Aleph, Yud Shvat, is to transform the sheker of the world. This is pure sheker. It's difficult for us to say. So the conservative rabbi called me, they follow, words. They don't even know what they're saying. But they get language that they get from people. They always start off bishalom. That's one of the starting point they always say. And they go to me, they ask me, how are you keeping your shul open? Bekuach nefesh, hatzalat nefashot. They go from one to the next. He was upset that our shul was open. And we were advertising to everybody that our shul was open, following the protocols very clearly. And I said, listen, the truth is, if I was running an institution like you, I would also be closed. I would 100% be closed. It reminds me when I first came, the rabbi once saw me and he said to me, I'm so impressed that you have, with minyan already, so much going on. It's interesting to note, when I first went on shlichus, the Reform rabbi called up Rabbi Cunin, Rabbi Silver, called you up. And he said, I'm thinking about throwing out this Chabadnik that just came here. So Rabbi Cunin called me up. I just came on shlichus. I got a phone call from Rabbi Cunin. The secretary says, hold on the phone. Rabbi Cunin wants to talk to you. I got a little nervous. And he says, Mintz, you're doing a good job. If I get calls, I know what's happening. And this was it. But it's interesting. So he said, I told this rabbi, when he said there's so much going on, I said, if we got away and we didn't follow the Torah, Shulchan Aruch, you would have no shul. They would know, what do you have to offer these people? There's nothing there. He never spoke to me again. But that was over. But thank God he's no longer there. But there's no guy who I'm friendly with. He says, how are you open at Salat? He went through all the words with Nakudis, or transliteration to English. He was telling me, what do you do? So I told him very clearly that we have a Rebbe. And we opened the shul. It's not that I'm opening up the shul. It's the Rebbe's shul. And the Rebbe's, the shuls cannot be closed. People didn't want to come down. And the fact is that we have. And when it came to a school, we had to open up our school. We closed it for 3 months. I called Rabbi Cunin. I asked, can I open up the school? He said, if you get permission, you're welcome to open it. At that time, if you recall, when in May, it was exactly a year ago, they were talking about first responders. There's no preschool for them. So I called Janice Hahn, who's in our community, what's her title? I don't even know. Not council member, supervisor, county supervisor of our community. I called her up, left a message by her assistant that we're willing to offer all first responders free education. Let them come. I got a phone call from her right away. She said, I said, I got the PPP. I have no kids in my school because you don't let me open. I'll take those kids on one condition, that I can take some of my own. She called me back. She says, we'll give you a waiver. You're welcome to open it. And we opened it. I called Rabbi Cunin. He said, if you follow all the restrictions, and we opened it. We had 13 kids that was not part of our school. They wanted to come. They lasted a week. Thank God. And it was over. We opened it up for us. We had started our own kids with maybe 10. And it built immediately. When there was a skier, we had a few challenges. I called Rabbi Cunin what to do. He was you better be very careful. This is not a joke. It's very serious. But Baruch Hashem, we wrote it to the Rebbe. The Rabbi Cunin told me to write it to the Rebbe. Miracles. Thank God it didn't spread. And Baruch Hashem, the preschool and our day school is open. We never had a closing of the school since last year, and it's some challenges, but nothing. One other story I just want to mention. Rabbi Cunin asked me to talk about the school. Rabbi Cunin has been pushing me to open up a school, a day school. Not to rely only on a preschool, you have to continue. Anyone I spoke to that runs a day school told me, stay away from it. Stay away. This is going to be the end of your, and I want to mention it because we started the school a few years ago, Rabbi Zalman Gordon and his wife, Alta, Mamish Mesilas Nefesh for the school. We started in Baruch Hashem this year. This is a nest. Before COVID, we had 32 kids in the school. Because of COVID, we have over 80 kids in the school. Direct, because and now once you have the kids, they're in your school already. So they already get a taste of Yiddishkeit, a taste what's going on. We're opening up Beis Hashem this year, 5th grade. Every year we grow a year, and we have Baruch Hashem, we're going to grow. Our goal is to move even further, but we need a place. We have no more room in our facility. So Baruch Hashem, we're building a new facility, a beautiful, there was Nissim with them. And I know there's a lot of numbers going back and forth, but I just want to tell you one thing, that when we came to get this property, it was enormous. 3.5 acres, it's very hard. The school district was willing to give it to us on a long condition, but I wanted something from them also because it wasn't, not to go through all the details. My lawyer said to me, don't even ask. You're crazy. I said, if I don't ask, you'll never get it. So I wrote into I was actually by the oil, I wrote into the Rebbe, I spoke to Rabbi Cunin afterwards, what should I do? Because real estate, he says, you can ask. They say no is no, you can ask. I came in, I asked for a credit that they should give me $10 million. Because we're going to fix over the whole property next to the school, the kids are going to use it also. They looked at me like I was crazy. The lawyer said to me, you're out of your mind. They're never going to give it to you. It was Chaf Hey, the Rebbetzins Yemaledes. They came back to me last year and they agreed to give me $8 million. And it's unbelievable. I'm getting the property from them and they're giving us $8 million. So it doesn't even make sense. This is the essence of Lechatchilla Ariber. When you connect it, the Rebbe is holding our hand. That we just have to push and go forward. And I want to just make Rabbi Cunin mention, young shluchim. We have Shlomi Sorota that came. He runs, doesn't stop, but the inspiration he gives us, I don't have that energy anymore. We just don't. Let's be real. We don't have to run every single day, knocking on doors, going down to the beach. There's nobody that could pass Shlomi. Nobody. Doesn't exist. Zelo Umazeh. The first thing he starts off in the morning, he's by us in the school. You can't get out of your car. So you have to drop off the kids. How does it work with COVID shots? You stay in your car, right? So Shlomi says to them, Tillin, I'm busy. In the car, right there, stick your hand out and he's rolling. Right in the car. They don't even have to move out of the car. So if you pass by our parking lot in the morning, Shlomi's standing there with his tefillin like a security guard. No car passing. He knows who's Jewish, who's this, who's that, who's tefillin, who doesn't. I'm going to get him. And it's unbelievable. Some people drive through really quick. They see Shlomi, it's unbelievable. But this is how he starts. And every day he comes back.
Just taking over from school today.
But it's unbelievable. I'm trying to keep up. And Rabbi Cunin was pushing me. Baruch Hashem, we have together 4 shluchim by us in our city, in the surrounding cities. And it's growing. And I can tell you we could use a lot more. And we're not going to stop. Because there's Yidden that I never knew. You think you know all the Yidden in your city? Every day Shlomi comes and tells me how many new Yidden never knew that we existed. Never knew we existed. And we're there for 25 years. How are you talking that we don't know? Where's the achayis that we have? And you're worried about money. We, Baruch Hashem, take care of his salaries. And the Rebbe sends, it's amazing. Listen, I don't even tell Shlomi. I don't want to build them up too fast. But it's unbelievable. People that meet him and send him, I don't tell you Shlomi all the stories, but people send us. People send us money. It's unbelievable. Much that, he's working on, pushing with people that he meets. Money is not the issue. The question is if you're ready to go out, make a keli. Rabbi Cunin is pushing with Yossi, with other people. They're not fighting with us. They called me up. We need more shluchim. I'm taking one. We'll find a place. And Baruch Hashem, we found a place. There's more places. There are more places. You'll say, we're 4 already. Where's we going to go? And I have Baruch Hashem, all the kids. They're going to find also a place. Whether they hear somebody else, they'll find. There's enough places. There's so many Yidden. Who's taking the responsibility? It's not Rabbi Cunin wants to fight with any one of us. We have to bring this to the end. And this is the only way that we reach to every single Yidden. You never know when and who and how you're going to reach it. So L'chaim, we should know Lechatchilla Ariber, and the Rebbe will carry us all out of goals once and for all. L'chaim. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Mintz, for always the great stories. And, Rabbi Soroka, make sure you get a cut of those texts. Rabbi Brisky, you've been a leader for us in our Kehillah, the community of Al Shtochim, and we're so glad we got that scared. We're so glad that you're here now, Baruch Hashem, many years to come. Please bring with us.
Thank you very much. One can easily say that we're sitting in the Chabad house. It is a Chabad house of Lechatchilla Ariber, not just when we come on the Farbrengen and Beis Iyyar, but every single day of the year, we get the inspiration of Lechatchilla Ariber from here, from Rabbi Cunin, the stories that we've heard tonight, both from Rabbi Cunin Sr. and from his son and from many of the Shluchim. If we just take some of the inspiration from tonight and live with it, it'll have a tremendous effect on each and every single one of us on our shluchos. And I think we can say that this entire past 13 months have been 13 months of living Lechatchilla Ariber, as we've heard from some of the shluchim before. The landscape has changed drastically this year. And Baruch Hashem, the shluchim in California, the shluchim throughout the world, found a way that whatever challenge was thrown at us, we weren't going to stop. We weren't going to be intimidated by the challenges, but we were going to find a way. Lechatchilla Ariber. And all the challenges that we had with every single Yom Tov, what are we going to do? With Hebrew schools, what are we going to do? With adult education, what are we going to do? Is there anyone here that has less students this year in adult education than the year before? We went Zoom, and all of a sudden we found that Yidden all over the world are tuning into our classes. Not in the tens, not in the hundreds, in the thousands. Thousands. So we took whatever challenges came our way. We went Lechatchilla Ariber, and literally the landscape has totally changed, as we've heard from our prior shluchim. The temples have shut down, and Chabad went full force. And the Jewish community knows it. They recognize it. They see it. It's a different Jewish landscape today. I remember when I first came out, the first year I was here. So this goes back to 37 years. So there was a Reform rabbi from Thousand Oaks. He called me. He also had just come out at that time. His name was Alan Greenbaum. And he told me that he went to UCLA and that his favorite time of year was Purim here in the Chabad house. And then he wanted to get together, he wanted to talk, and you can tell that he had within him this chayas he had, that he would get from the Chabad house. Now, 37 years ago, there was a lot of confrontation between the movements and Chabad. The Yehudi was big, it was hot, there was a lot of friction going on. And he asked me if I would come and speak to his Hebrew school students. At that time, again, for him to have a Chabad rabbi come to talk to his Hebrew school students, he was taking a risk with his board. Anyway, I came and he introduced me, and this is how he introduced me. He said, "Students, do you remember we studied that the ancient Hebrews in the wilderness would put these black boxes on their hand and on their head? He still does it." That was the introduction. And I remember coming up saying, "Alan, I'm not a piece from the museum. We all still do it. It's part of us. It's part of our tradition. It's part of our heritage." Those days are long gone. Everyone out there knows about tefillin today. The landscape has changed. The friction that we had decades ago between the movements, Everyone now understands that Chabad Lubavitch leads the way in Yiddishkeit. That's Lechatchilla Ariber. We have changed an entire landscape. Rabbi Cunin, I know you put time into the emails and you're not sure yourself perhaps if it's having an effect. I want to tell you it has a tremendous effect. We read your emails, we're inspired by your emails, at times we're moved to tears by your emails, but to have someone that has given every ounce of his life to the Rebbe and to Shlichus, write about this year that he met, and this year that he met, and this year that it moves us, it changes us, it inspires us that we continue to go out and continue to change the landscape. And indeed, we should all merit very, very soon the ultimate mission, the fulfillment of the ultimate mission. The Sfarim should come back, and together the Rebbe should come back and lead us from Mashiach Tzidkenu, speedily in our days. Just a small PS. This Reform rabbi ended up getting divorced. He remarried. He married a Balas Tshuva, made Aliyah, living a frum life himself today. You got to start right there.
I want to say, Talia Shluchim, this has been a night of inspiration for all of us. To hear the senior Shluchim and the younger Shluchim, maybe some more of you that I asked to speak, but I don't remember because, we hit 80 years old. So only X amount of room in this computer screen here. So if I left anybody out, I apologize. I think the evening is running. With Afahenge. And those who want to sit in Farbrengen, you're welcome. But the bottom line is, we have to know that Empress Oicha is beyond the mini. And the bigger the Israelis become, the million to give out. We learned yesterday, I learned always with Rabbi Baruch Hecht. Every night we start sitting together. It's an incredible vote. The vote is that people get a yid a ribui koiches, oi, such and such and such. So then we can fulfill in the yid Achbon Islam. He can fulfill that the tiefste Birurim was mit Appelware sein. Sehr starke Wort. So we say to the Rebbe, thank you. You gave us all the credit, it's wonderful. We're sitting here in Golis, it's really enough. You say, well, but the bank is not attacked from Golis, trust me, we won't. If the bank is not ready, we want to see him. There's something Rebbe to have cashed me, and every one of us, the Rebbe's kindle, is the Rebbe's hand for every mitzvah that we do. It's the Rebbe's inspiration. It gives us the inspiration to go forward. Then we will see in Mr. Shem, thank you, Miyad Manish, the Geula, or Amitis, or Shlema. Chaim, Chaim. I want to thank very much all those that helped make this event what it is today, and David Susan and Benson, Culture.
We have a midnight challah. If you ate challah, raise your hand.
Come.
We're doing it. We're doing wash, right?
Wash.
Just my joke. Rabbi Zushi said one other woman. Oh, no, maybe not my mom too. I just want to say Rabbi Zushi said one about my mom. Rabbi said Rabbi